Born in Chicago, Illinois on 5 December 1901, Disney developed an early interest in drawing. When he was 4 years old, his parents, Elias and Flora, moved the family to a farm in Marceline, Missouri. Disney enjoyed living on the farm with his 3 older brothers, Herbert, Raymond, and Roy, and his younger sister, Ruth. It was in Marceline that Disney first developed a love for drawing and art. After 4 years in Marceline, he and his parents moved to Kansas City. He continued to draw and took art classes on the weekends there. In 1917, the family moved back to Chicago. Disney attended McKinley High School and drew for the school newspaper. He also took up evening classes at the Chicago Art Institute. When he was 16, Disney decided to enlist in the army and take part in World War I. However, he was rejected for being underage. So, he decided to drop out of school and join the Red Cross. He spent the next year driving ambulances for the Red Cross in France. After the war, Disney returned to Kansas City, where he began his career as an advertising cartoonist. It was during this time in 1920 that he met Ub Iwerks, a young artist whose talents were to contribute greatly to Disney's early success. From Iwerks, he learned about animation and got an opportunity to create and market his first original animated cartoons. Later, he perfected a new method for combining live action and animation. Disney and Iwerks started a small studio of their own in 1922. They bought a second-hand movie camera with which they made short animated advertising films for distribution to local movie theaters. They also did a series of animated cartoon sketches called Laughograms and the pilot film for a series of 7-minute fairy tales called Alice in Cartoon Land. By 1923, however, the company had become burdened with debt and Disney was forced to declare bankruptcy in 1923. Disney wasn't going to be disheartened by one failure. However, in 1923, he moved to Hollywood, California. There, he and his brother Roy opened the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio. The studio, now known as the Walt Disney Company, is one of the largest media companies in the world. In 1927, Walt Disney Studio, the Disney Brothers Cartoon Studio, had changed its name in 1926, was involved in the successful production of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was distributed by Universal Pictures. However, as Universal Pictures controlled the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt Disney was not able to profit from this success. In 1928, he released the short cartoon film called Steamboat Willie. This was the first Mickey Mouse cartoon released and the first cartoon with sound. In the initial years, Mickey's voice was provided by Disney himself. The success and popularity of Mickey Mouse led to the introduction of other animal characters such as Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, and the dogs Pluto and Goofy. In 1932, Walt Disney produced the animated film Flowers and Trees as part of the Silly Symphonies series. It was the first commercially released film to be produced in the full color by a process called the 3-strip Technicolor process. The film won Walt Disney his first Academy Award for the Best Cartoon Short Subject. He also won a special Academy Award for this was, however, just the beginning. In 1932, Walt Disney began work on the classic fairy tale Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was to be the first full-length animated musical film. It was thought to be a risky venture, and many expected it to be a commercial failure. But Disney used new techniques of filming and hoped that the film would be successful. The film took nearly 5 years to complete and proved to be one of the costliest ventures of Disney. When the film was released in 1937, it was greeted with glowing reviews. The people simply loved it. In fact, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the most successful film of 1938, earning $8 million on its first release. In 1939, the film was honored with a Special Academy Award. During the next 5 years, Walt Disney completed other full-length animated classics such as Pinocchio, Fantasia, both 1940, Dumbo, 1941, Bambi, 1942, Cinderella, 1950, and Peter Pan, 1953. In the 1950s, Walt Disney also began expanding his company's operations into popular action films. Several successful films were produced, such as Treasure Island, 1950, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 1954, and Pollyanna, 1960. In the 1940s, Disney's company had begun making movies with live actors. Mary Poppins from 1964 was the most successful of these and won 5 Academy Awards. Walt Disney was always restless and wanted to try new things. He came up with the idea of creating a theme park with rides and entertainment based on his movies. In particular, he wanted it to be a magical world for children and surrounded by a train. Disneyland opened on 17 July 1955 in Anaheim, California. It cost $17 million to build. The park was a huge success and is still one of the most popular vacation destinations in the world. In 1965, Walt Disney began development of another theme park, Disney World in Florida. However, he died of lung cancer on 15 December 1966 before the park could be completed. After his death, his brother Roy oversaw the construction of the park, which was opened to the public on 1 October 1971. Disney remains an important figure in the history of animation and in the cultural history of the United States, where he is considered a national cultural icon. His legacy lives on to this day. His movies and theme parks are still enjoyed by millions of people each year. His company continues to produce wonderful movies and entertainment every year.